Hi, this is Dominic Keating. I played Lieutenant Malcolm Reed on Enterprise, as you probably know, and you are listening to the NX 7062 podcast. Enjoy.
Hello, and welcome to the NX 7062 podcast. Hello to everybody. Let's see who we got. We've got Dave and Uncle Hairball, and I saw Robert. I saw Robert and Nancy. Hi, Nancy. And who said that they were surprised? Robert? Yes, I felt the same way when I woke up to that entire list of rest in peace Gary's when I woke up on Tuesday morning. I felt the very same way. And I'm getting there. Give me 1 second. Okay. And hey, Roy, good to see you. But this is a really special hello. Everybody, meet the one and only Lawrence Ross. He is one of my on-air personality cohorts over at Roadhouse Rock. He does weekday mornings or weekend mornings, 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. If you guys are up at 6 a.m. on a Saturday morning, he's the one you want to be listening to. He's fantastic. He does voices. He's amazing. And he's awesome. And Lawrence, I am so excited that you're here. So I wanted to give a very special shout out to Lawrence. And like I said, I mean, you guys shouldn't just be listening to Roadhouse Rock for me. You should definitely be listening to the rest of everybody that's on there, including Lawrence. Like I said, Saturday, 6 a.m. East, or if you're an insomniac on the West Coast, 3 a.m., which is something I usually say when I'm promoting his show. Hi, Joshua. Thanks for stopping by. Listen, I'm always glad to see you guys. It's just, it's a really, really sad, it's a really sad night. I mean, was I literally not just talking about Gary last week? Was I literally not using him as a 1 degree of separation to get from Gary Oldman to Star Trek because of, what was it, The Fifth Element, because of Bruce Willis? And Gary had done an episode of Moonlighting. I mean, seriously, if you go down his IMDb page, he has done so many things that I just want to go back and rewatch. He did Ally McBeal. Eric Pierpoint did an episode of Ally McBeal, which, if you listen to my Eric Pierpoint interview, we talk about that because it was a fun episode because David E. Kelley is awesome. But we can talk. We could just talk about Gary's amazing resume and all the cool stuff that he has done outside of Alien. You're welcome, Lawrence. Outside of Alien Nation and Star Trek. Did you know he was only on 12 episodes of Enterprise? Doesn't it feel like he had such a fantastic presence? And maybe because he was there from the beginning because he was in Broken Bow. He just had such a fabulous presence that it felt like he did more episodes. Of course, the last season, obviously were my favorite, where you realize that that Saval actually really did like the human race. I'm getting warm. I'm taking this off. Baby Yoda here in the house. Don't talk to me before I have my soup. Yeah, I'm a little Star Wars tonight. I don't know. I love this new Sith hat. So, but I mean, Saval was such a presence. Gary was such a presence. He did that one episode of Voyager. Yes, I do actually know that he was in Voyager, and I've actually seen that episode, believe it or not, thanks to Heroes and Icons. But the real reason, and you all know that I was trying to get him, on the show, was looking forward to talking about Sons of Kirk's new album coming out. And that was honestly, that's why we kept kind of pushing it off. Be a lot of Star Wars. That's why we kept pushing it off. Because he really was looking forward to coming on the show and not just talking about Star Trek. As you all know, when I have somebody on the show, we don't just talk about Star Trek. We talk about so many other things, whatever's going on in their life, whatever else they've got going on. And Sons of Kirk was so important to him. He was such a musician, and the band and their new CD was so important to him that he wanted to wait. Every time I asked him, wait. And we were so close. We were so close, and it's just, it breaks my heart that all this happened. And of course it breaks my heart for his family, especially, and to all of his close friends. One of those close friends actually happens to be Ryan T. Husk from the Seventh Rule. And I know a lot of you Chat Pack 2.0, you are originally from the Chat Pack. I know that's how you guys all came over here. So you all know Virtual TrekCon. They're coming up on their 5th one in a couple of weeks. But back during Virtual TrekCon 2, Ryan had posted that Gary was going to be a guest. And the thought just popped into my head, and I reached out to Ryan and I said, "Hey Ryan, I know you got Gary being a good guest. Wouldn't it be awesome if we could get Eric Pierpoint on and you could do like this Alien Nation thing? Plus they've both been in Star Trek, so how perfect would that be?" And Ryan thought it was a fantastic idea. And I said, Eric did my show and I actually still have his email address. I'd be more than happy to see if he'd be interested. And Eric remembered me, and Eric is lovely. Eric is absolutely lovely. And a little back and forth brought Ryan in on the discussion, and Eric said, absolutely, let's go for it. We'll do an Alien Nation reunion. So Ryan got that set up, and then Ryan reached out to me and he said, listen, do you want to come in on the interview side of it? Do you want to be involved in it? And I'm like, eeny, meeny, miny, mo. How do you turn down being on a virtual panel with Cirroc Lofton, Ryan T. Husk, Eric Pierpoint, and Gary Graham? The answer to that question is that you don't. So last week I asked Ryan, since it's a virtual TrekCon video. Last week I asked Ryan if it would be okay if I rebroadcast it here. So if you missed it on virtual TrekCon, you could see it, and it would be my way of honoring Gary and kind of having him on my show, which is, obviously something that we didn't get to do. So without further ado, I am going to share with you the virtual TrekCon interview that I had the absolute pleasure of doing. Please let me know immediately if there's no sound. I think I set this up right. This is the first time that it was the second time. I've done this before, and I think I've got everything set up right.
Last on set, Eric. Last on set.
Hey, everybody, and welcome to Virtual TrekCon with Cirroc Lofton.
Hello, hello.
We are joined by two very special guests, Mr. Eric Pierpoint and Gary Graham, both of Alien Nation, both of Enterprise, both of Voyager, and Eric has also done an episode of Deep Space Nine and
TNG.
Yep, Next Generation.
Look,
and we are also joined by a very special guest host and resident Alien Nation expert, Miss Stephanie K of Lambda Quadrant. How's everybody doing? And first of all, you guys obviously had some kind of inside joke there about first on set or last on set.
Well, come on.
Very, very intuitive. Very, very, very insightful.
There's
Eric
nothing
and I.
inside about it. It's just well known.
Yeah, I don't remember how it started. Do you, Eric?
I remember I was there hours before you. Okay.
Well, you had to put makeup on.
In the chair to get into makeup. My call time was normally 3:45, 3:30, somewhere around there. I'd be through my, coffee, breakfast, whatever, in the middle of headness. And Gary'd come in and sort of shake his head in the mirror, and they'd, okay, he's done.
I pay more. Yeah.
But you did actually get into some serious special effects with the ears, I have to say.
Well, you laugh, but that was like a 2.5 hour job. Just that it was a wig and the ears and the eyebrows, all prosthetics, and so I did come to appreciate somewhat the agony you went through. But
you didn't lose it or anything, did you?
I didn't have this, Eric. I didn't have this sensation.
Yeah.
Which was, if you could put your hands over your ears and try to talk right now, it'll drive you crazy. It's like having bees live inside your head.
Yeah.
And a few weeks working with Eric with bees living inside his head, it was not a pleasant experience. I had to take a walk. We had to walk him out into the parking lot and just calm him down. And you're connected to the universe and the long silver umbilical cord. It's going to be all right.
Yeah. If I use the royal we did lose it a few times.
Yes.
Well,
yes.
That actually does lead. Sorry.
Build and build until bang, and then I would blow it off, and then Gary'd walk me around a little bit, and we'd be ready to shoot again. So.
But I do have a question in regards to that, because you played a Klingon on an episode of Voyager. So which was worse?
Exactly.
The Tank Denise or the Klingon?
So the story that I have about doing the Klingon was I was back east at, I think, Shore Leave or one of these conventions. And I had shot pretty late into Friday night. So I spent the weekend in Baltimore, I think. Had to get on a plane to then get into Klingon makeup. The plane was late. I ended up going straight from the airport to the set, 2:30 in the morning. It took forever to put me back in the makeup. And we shot for 24 hours because we had to shoot that episode out because they were back-ended against the previous episode. So that went on and on and on. And we were also shooting on a poor man's process on a barge. So the barge was doing this, and I'm doing that all that time. And I get pulled over on the freeway on the 101 coming home for weaving. So they gave me a drunk test, and they said, "You've been drinking?" And I said, "No, I've been a Klingon."
And they said, "All right, you're coming with us."
Right. The guy was a really nice guy, and I was still in my, they give you in Star Trek this black T-shirt, and it's got like makeup hanging off of it, and you're a mess, and so I still had that. And he asked me if I knew my way back to my ship. So I made it home, but that was quite an experience. But yeah.
24-hour workday, huh?
Yeah, it was nuts. It just went on and on and on. I've never seen anything quite like that before. We had some hours on Alien Nation for sure. But this one was one of those emergencies. Gary, I don't know if you remember a director, Mike Vehar. Do you remember him?
No,
he probably directed you in something at some point.
Now, what show was it? What
that was
Star Trek or Alien Nation?
I guess what was that? Voyager?
Okay. No, I didn't mean it.
Okay, all right.
Gary,
I don't know if you know this, but Gary and I were asked several times to come in and read for some of these big parts in the new show.
For Cisco, didn't we read for Cisco?
We did, and I think even before they brought Kate Mulgrew aboard,
Uh-huh.
they had a casting change because whoever did the start of the show, I think, quit or something.
She lasted a day and a half.
Wasn't that French actress?
Canadian.
Okay.
Genevieve.
Yeah, Bujold, yeah.
Right. So I guess she figured out that television was not as easy as.
Wasn't that Genevieve?
Yeah.
Joe.
So we would go in and we'd read for the captain, or I think I even read for Riker.
Wow.
And then
I think I read that somewhere.
Giving me other parts, which was great. It was great.
I do remember reading about you and reading for Riker, actually. Sorry, Strzok, what were you saying?
Oh, I was just saying that the two of you guys had so much chemistry, starting off on this first pilot episode of Alien Nation. I wondered if you guys had worked together, or was that just something that you built on the set together?
Wow. Now that's Eric. If you think about that, that's the highest compliment we could receive, because we just met. After I got cast. You were already cast, and we had one day. You guys got into makeup. All the Tinktonese got into makeup, and we went down to downtown, walked around Olivera Street or something, and bus station, and just. I think Kenny Johnson's idea was to let the actors get an idea of how they're looked at by humans. Mm-hmm. And the surprising thing about it was we were expecting all sorts of strange reactions to these spongeheads, these Tinktonese walking around, and hardly anybody gave him a second question. This is L.A. Some shit. Some weirdos.
We got a lot of recognition that we were doing a show, but there were a couple of things. One woman told her son, I think this was a Union Station, look at that burn victim.
Yeah.
It's
so pathetic. They were feeling sorry for you. No, don't stare, honey. Don't stare. They're just tinctinines.
But it was weird because you really, felt like you stuck out. And there were times when we were shooting in downtown LA where I was approached in a weird way. One guy with a pocket knife, and he started looking at me and he started stabbing a milk carton. And the milk
was a warning.
was leaking out, and I'm thinking that could very well be me. Some kid,
was it soured milk though?
That's right.
Then I don't know.
You don't waste that. That was a good month.
It was a good week, right?
Yeah.
Another guy said to me directly, "You're the ugliest person I've ever seen."
Don't take it personally.
And then another guy whacked me in the head. So there were a few things that happened, but
yeah, I remember that. And I felt, even though I didn't really know you then, Eric, I felt an instant sense of protectiveness about, as my partner, hey, don't mess with this dude, huh?
Well, and that stuff plays.
Yeah,
on the road.
It does.
It really does.
I'm taking a bath here. Ready for you guys. I was moving furniture and jerking around, and it's pretty warm here.
Yeah. Everybody at home, Gary over here is in Maui, so he's
don't feel too bad for him.
Somebody's got to do it, and I stepped up. I volunteered. And okay, let it be me.
But we do want to thank you, Gary, for joining us all the way out in Maui in the middle of your vacation. Really appreciate that.
Love it. Love you guys. So I'm happy, and I love the show, and I love Eric.
Hey, Gary. I'll tell you, though, we had so much fun. We laughed. It seemed like we laughed all day, every day, to me, my memory.
It's amazing we got anything filmed, wasn't
it? It was just, between the laughing and the crying, it was great.
Exactly. The times, and I remember doing takes with you, Eric, and you're just a champion. You're a team player, and you don't break character no matter what. A light fixture falls, so many trips, you just continue with it. And God bless you, man. That was so great to work with and work off of, because you were just rock steady. And going into a scene, it's such a great feeling knowing that confidence that my partner, no matter what I give him, and
we'll get it
quite
back.
Often I was throwing all kinds of weird curveballs. We would ask Kenny Johnson, says, Kenny, how could the scene ended 2 minutes ago, and you got the cameras rolling. What's up with that? He goes, well, you guys just come up with stuff that I don't know what you're going to do. So sometimes I keep it in the movie. It stays in the film. This shit that you guys come up with. I go, well, all right. I'm used to hearing cut. There's no cut. Just till we run out of film.
Gary,
capital S.
Gary, if I could just go back to something you said about feeling protective about Eric, because I've been doing a rewatch the last couple of days of the show, and the one thing that really struck me and I thought was so great about the writing was that Sykes was dealing with his own prejudices and trying to kind of get past them, but yet there were times when you were so protective of George just from that standpoint of, he's my partner, he's the man I work with. At the same time, you were still trying to deal with who he was and getting used to working with him.
In my own innate racism, if you will.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Racism. We sort of planned that out ahead of time. I saw an arc. Should we go the whole season? Or I saw an arc in that along the way, Matt Sykes learns some lessons about
absolutely
about dealing with other species in this case. And I didn't want to jump on the good guy team right away. I wanted to drag my feet into that evolution, into that metamorphosis. So I intentionally, left the rough edges in place for as long as I could, and then slowly I would be converted.
And I found that to be the most organic thing about the story, because this isn't something where you go from episode 1 to episode 2 and you have your prejudices that you're dealing with in episode 1 and all of a sudden they're gone by episode 2 or 3. That's not really how it works. How it works is exactly what you described. And like I said, I'm already up to episode 13, where you're already kind of dealing with your feelings for Kathy. as a Tanktonese woman. And it's just so beautifully done and so organic that you really feel like this is how it should be and how the story should be told.
That's sweet of you to say that. And that's what we tried to do. As subtly as possible. Nobody wants to be lectured to. Nobody wants, to be hit over the head with this is the moral of the story. Nobody wants that. But if you can just let it sort of seep into the consciousness by osmosis and appear, first time and real, that's so much better. So
like I said, and it comes through because I've said this on my own podcast. I'll say this whenever I talk about a show. Organic is so important to me because I don't. Exactly what you said. I don't want to be preached to. If you're telling me something, if you want to give me a message, if you want to tell me something, that's fine. But it has to feel natural. Don't be sitting there pointing a finger at me.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you about that. When you guys first took this job, the pilot really sets the tone for this show.
Right.
And I think that the pilot episode really jumps right into these difficult, hard-hitting issues of race and racism and feeling alienated, you start off with these racial slurs, calling people slags.
Yes.
And I wanted to ask you, is that what interests you about doing this project right away? Is that something you said, oh wow, this is the kind of material that I think is gonna be hard hitting and really informative and open people's eyes?
For me, absolutely. And Eric, I'm sure the same. We talk a lot about this. Absolutely.
Yeah. I felt, first of all, the writing was amazing. And I'd worked with some of these people before. I also felt that, they had written George as someone who was fiercely protective of his family, but also wanted to fit in so badly. He had to be liked. And so I felt like his attitude had to be as positive as, I could do it, but at the same time defend those points along the way where he's furious because he's been mistreated, or he's been called a slag or whatever. So, but it was, I don't know, we somehow found a rhythm that worked with all the producers and the writers and the directors. And oftentimes it was fun because directors sometimes did not know what we were going to do.
Right.
Like if we were making up a ceremony, how do we do that? So we're imagining this on the set in real time, and that's what made it fun, so much fun, because it's not like move here, move there, move. We kind of had this feel for it. Like, the knowledge that Sykes would have, like, what do you mean it takes two men to impregnate a woman? You're going to let that happen?
She's your wife, for God's sakes.
I cherish the day. I cherish the memories, was his response, right? So, it's like, okay, we got the Ganom and the Binom, of course.
Of course.
And not only that.
Read a tango.
Yeah, and let's let Eric have the baby. Okay.
The baby. I got to say, Eric, your commitment to these traditions that you guys, as you say, you pretty much got together and made them up, but you pulled it off like a long-standing tradition. That is, of course, it's like the sacraments that a Catholic church sometimes you go through, and it just, you've done this. You attended all these ceremonies of other people, and now it's your special time.
Right.
And the commitment that you had sort of sucked me right into it. And I just,
well, it also allowed you to be a great observer.
Yes.
You
feel very uncomfortable with it, but wanting to join in and not.
If that's what you're doing, we'll go with it. But
sure.
Yeah. But that.
There's another aspect to George that I wanted to touch on. It's actually something that Aaron Eisenberg covered in an episode of DS9. George was going through PTSD before anybody really had defined what PTSD was.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
There was, so many of the episodes that I like, again, back to the fact that I've just come off of rewatching them, a lot of them. But it really comes through what George had to go through and all the agony that he went through on the ship. And even though he's free in his mind, he's not completely free.
No, to be able to overcome, like the reality of in the one episode called The Game.
Yep.
Okay, so they're doing a Russian roulette kind of a thing with that, and he's taken back with the memories of having his brother killed and having them, be basically prisoners aboard a slave ship. And so it definitely, it gets in there and it sits there and it's connected to his brain and his spine. So then what are you going to do when you have to try to overcome that and make a success out of a new life as a species that's brand new to Earth? It's like, it was very touching to be able to have a character that had different layers, and I think that's what pretty much everybody had on that show, was the opportunity to have all of these other, parts to them. And that's what Ken Johnson, the creator, really, really wanted, was he wanted a very, I would say human, but he was focused so much on family that there was that whole thing going on. And then the professional life as a cop, and then bringing, Gary's character into the family all the time was really kind of cool. And I think Kenny was saying that it was one, I think a quick scene in the original movie, in the feature, with Mandy Patinkin and James Caan, where I think the family was waving goodbye as they went away to work, like a regular family. So he wanted to focus a lot on that,
That's what convinced him to take the project on. He saw the pilot, he saw the movie that it was based upon, and said, I'm not so interested in cop car chases and whatnot. But when I saw that scene that you just described, he said, okay, now we got a guess who's come to dinner type of thing going on that really appeals to me. So he wrapped his brain around that. I think that's what that was largely the seed of success for our series, I think.
There was a lot of other stuff that they brought into it. We had female writers, and they were very adamant about writing strong female characters. So that fit in as well.
And boy, did they. Yeah, Terry Crews could just throw me across the room anytime. Had to go to special classes to have sex with
to learn how to have sex with an alien, right?
One of my favorite scenes there was when I come into the squad room and I'm like this, and you look and go, oh, Matt, did you and Kathy have sex?
That was the movie. That was Body and Soul. That was actually one of my favorite.
Oh yeah.
You missed the lesson number 3.
Well, even in the pilot episode, Kathy's yelling for help, but then she kicked the ass of three guys that were trying to attack her.
Yeah. Basically, I stayed with Kathy for protection.
Hey, Eric, you mentioned Kenny Johnson, the creator. I did want to ask a little bit about that. Before you started shooting even that first episode, did he kind of sit you down, or maybe the directors or other writers, and just kind of say, this is my vision, here are some helpful hints, here's what I'm looking for?
Early. Yeah, I got in on early. I'd worked with Kenny before on a series called Hot Pursuit in 1984. So we were already good friends, and he called me and he said, I want you to do it. He didn't say which part. So I watched the show, the film. I'd seen it before. I got, let me look at it again. He goes, so I was thinking, well, do you want me to play, Gary's part?
Yeah.
This is before they brought Gary in. And he said, no, I want you to be George. And I went, let me look at it again. And I went, of course, I have to be. So what's interesting is that when you get the head on, you begin to transition into a character by studying how it works for you, how the sound comes out of that face, so that it may not be just regular Eric. There's a whole different rhythm to it. Even though it's me, it's something where, we did talk, Kenny and I talked about how to be, how to be positive, how to be loving, how to be, trusting, how, what it meant, when you would hear someone throw slag at you, and how that made you feel and how you worked from there. So we did a lot of talking about that. We even sat around, I don't know, Gary, were you in on when we had a table read? We sat around and people, this is when we were shooting the pilot, I think. Everybody got a chance to talk about if they had experienced any form of, prejudice in their life.
Right. Racial prejudice.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And we had a pretty diverse cast so that, we could at least talk about it, bring those things out into the open, which was really great to hear all the different, I think Emily, Lauren, said that her experience of racism wasn't racism, it was because she was smart. So people were prejudiced against her because she was the smartest kid in the class and they didn't like her. That sort of stuff. But
I was smart too. I was smart, and I found myself when I was third grade or fourth grade. I found myself, since my hand always went up first because I knew the answer. Simple technique my dad taught me when I was a little kid. He says, "Get your reading assignments and always read a chapter ahead. You'll be that much closer." Then when you're learning it through lecture and all that, you're familiar with this material. It's easier to learn. Pick it up. Just take a step ahead. And a little thing like that stuck with me, and I started doing that. And lo and behold, it worked. I was always a step ahead of the class, not to lord it over them or even feel special about it. It just made things easier. So I would do that, and I'd find that I got ostracized a bit because there's smart dude, yeah, nerd, exactly. I wore a nerd at 10 years old. So I felt that, and I would intentionally not raise my hand so much, and intentionally not know what the right answer was, even though I did. But everybody gets that. Everybody gets that. And slag was basically the N-word for black. That's the trigger button, and I think we all have. I think Kenny's and the writer's point was that we all have trigger buttons. Sticks and stones can break your bones, but words will never hurt me. All that kind of thing. And it was just doing this show was just a great lesson in tolerance. Things that you think about, but you never really spend day in and day out working out the story to show these morals, these great do unto others as others. Just a great edifying experience, Eric. I think I speak for you too. It was an edifying experience doing that. And in particular, do you remember when we took off and we went to New Orleans for some little bench, some special trip? I don't know why we were there, but we were walking down Bourbon Street, and because I play the human and Eric plays the guy with the head, that not everybody recognizes Eric so readily. But everybody, I mean, this thing was very popular in New Orleans. Everybody recognized me, and particularly the blacks recognized me, and they so related with to the message of the show. They so related to the plight of the Tanktonese. They were all coming up and wanted to talk to me, and I'd introduce. I said, "This is George. This is it. Oh, this is George." They get all excited.
It would happen in airports, We'd
exactly.
Go to a place and people would want to go up and shake Gary's hand, and they'd go like, "Who's this guy?" And you'd have to introduce me. And
then I said, "Eric, go like this." He goes, "Oh, yeah." Okay.
I had a great experience. I was doing an off-Broadway show in New York, and this was in '99, I guess. And we had shut down the movies by, I guess, a couple years by that time. We'd finished the 5 movies, but they were still running. And so the routine was I had to get a subway and then go cross town and, and it was late. And of course, after the show, you'd go out and get a drink or something like that. So it's like 2 a.m. Going uptown in the subway, and I got in there, and people just started staring at me. And I thought, what the hell is going on? And it was really fascinating because I was the one white person in the subway car. And they were all staring at me. And I thought, you know what? I know what this is. And this woman came up to me and she says, "You're that guy, aren't you? You're George." And I said, "Yeah, I'm George." And she said, "I told you he was George." So now we're having this great conversation with a dozen people in the subway at 2:00 in the morning. And I'm going way past my stop. I was having so much fun talking with him because at that time, the show was really popular for a lot of reasons. And it spoke to what a lot of people went through. And so they were relating to it. I'm sure to this day they keep wanting to reboot it, but they never do. But it would be kind of cool if they did. I mean, Gary and I'd be like in the retirement home.
You guys would be the sergeants.
They'd bring us out because everything else failed. And so they would bring us in.
We've got walkers and canes and
Maybe Buck could have followed in his dad's footsteps. Maybe Buck would be a
There you go.
policeman.
Yeah, maybe.
and I could be the
Or
cat.
Emily. Could be Emily.
Sirach, you look like you were going to say something on the subject.
Well, yeah, I was going to say that I really enjoyed the relationship that they had, and I think they really addressed a lot of things right away in the beginning. For example, Eric, your character, you asked Gary's character not to address him as slag in front of everybody. Can you not do that in front of everybody? You didn't say, can you not do it at all? You actually said, can you just not do it in front of other people while we're doing our procedures? And I just thought, wow, this guy is the complexity in that. It's not like you're totally denouncing what he's doing. You're just saying, hey, can you have a little bit of respect for me, sometimes. And I thought that was kind of poignant because that's something that people really experience. The other thing I thought was poignant was when you said, there's a call for an emergency at the school, and you asked to drive over to the school, and you said, that's my daughter's there, so you made it personal, and it's like, this is my family, this is my daughter. And then Gary, your character, I thought was amazing. The speech that you gave in front of that school, I think maybe the best speeches in television. It's just so meaningful. You talked about keeping America pure, and you were being sarcastic, but you did it in this way where like, let's do that. Let's keep America pure. Yeah, we should all wear white pointy cheeks.
We should put them on.
Yeah, let's do that. Yeah, let's. Matter of fact, why don't we just kill this person right here and there and just get it over with? And I just thought that this is the kind of conversations that, really open people's eyes to how other groups of people are being treated to this day. The working class, the throwaway class, whether it's race or economics, that causes people to be treated less than human.
Yeah. Well, Gary, I was watching that scene the other day because somebody posted it on Facebook. So I thought, fuck, I'm going to watch this thing again. It was great. And I thought, oh, yeah, I can see his Achilles tendon was blown out, right?
I just blown out my Achilles 2 days prior. 2 days. And I just put a real hard sports wrap on it with ace bandages, taped it up real good, and hobbled around in intense pain. So that was a painful experience doing that scene.
Wow.
But you could, and if they kind of cut around it, but you could see me limp.
They cut around.
Oh, it's noticeable.
Yeah, like they cut around Terry Treese's pregnancy at some point.
Yeah. She held books up.
We need more plants and trees on this to hide her.
But there was a moment in that scene, Gary, where you walk after you give your speech. You walk up to one of the black men that were in the crowd of that school, and you looked them in the eye, and you were saying something to the effect of, "You should be ashamed of yourself." Like,
aren't you?
You of all people, you know, you've been experiencing this your whole life, and now you're going to, you know, give this kind of energy off, you know, that you know is wrong. I really like that.
That was good. That was an extra doing that. He didn't have any lines. But he really felt the moment. I really liked what he did with that. You know, there's a lot of little subtle, powerful subtleties that you can convey with just the slightest little nuance, and he nailed it. That was a great moment.
You nailed it. I thought it was awesome.
I just have to say this: the setup for that, what caught me was I think the opening line when you said, "Look, we don't even have to put gold stars on them. You can just tell who they are."
Yeah.
I mean, the minute that came out, you're like, you just had to get ready for that ride because you knew where this was going.
Yeah, that's how those kinds of things can happen.
Mm-hmm.
You know, unless good people stand up and do the right thing.
Absolutely. And what's so poignant about it is that it held a mirror up to society then, and it's still doing it now, which obviously is why somebody posted it on Facebook.
Yeah.
Point. So let's talk a little bit about Star Trek. Maybe there won't be anything to talk about, but I did.
I doubt that.
Well, I mean, I don't know if you guys have ever crossed paths on Star Trek, the two of you, and I did wonder because you both played several.
I saw a shuttle. I saw a shuttle go by one time, and I said, "I think that's Eric Purple."
Well, you saw, you know, one of the ship. What was the name of my ship when they got shot out from under me by?
There have been so many.
Weddington or whatever his name was, and I was on this was Deep Space. I guess.
A little big there, Eric.
Yeah.
On Deep Space.
Space. I was Captain Sanders.
Right.
I lost my only job as a commander.
Oh man!
For the uniform was the episode. For the uniform.
But I thought that was great to be able to do that. You got a little taste of it. I did all the shows.
You've done more characters almost than Bon Armstrong, haven't you? Almost.
I think I did 5. Yeah.
5? Gee, I've only done 2.
So far.
You stuck on one though.
Well, thank you.
Yeah. It was great it's great to be part of that community, you know.
Yeah, it sure is.
Always kind of fun going in to meet with the guys and actually end up on the set. And sometimes, you know, you have to ask questions like, you know, from the security guard, like, do you know what this means in the world of Star Trek?
I had to go up to Rick Berman the day of shooting the pilot for Enterprise, Star Trek Enterprise. I don't know why I put this conversation off, but it just occurred to me when I was in full costume, full makeup. I'm on the set, and we're about 15 minutes away to shoot my first scene, which is with all the characters, and I'm sort of the focus of ridicule, basically. Let's ridicule the Vulcan. And I walked up to Rick Berman. I said, you know, I've got to ask him this. I was almost near a panic because I didn't know what I was doing. I figured in the reading I'd done something, and I remember after the reading, gee, I got the part. I better try to remember what I did because I don't know who the Vulcans are. I don't really. I watched Star Trek as a kid and all that, but I didn't really know what I was doing. I'll let it out, let everybody know right now. I didn't know what I did. So I walked out and I said, Rick, he says, first he stops me and goes, wow, you look like a Vulcan. And I go, I don't know if I feel like a Vulcan. And he put his arm around me, chuckling, and we walked around the sound stage for 15 minutes, and he told me all about the Vulcans and about how far from having zero emotions, they have such volcanic emotions that they realized centuries ago that in order to not destroy each other, they have to way to sublimate it and hold it in check. So that's when the whole Zen way of life for the Vulcans started. And I thought, oh, that's great. But now my panic, of course, is worsened because I didn't think about that. So I showed up on the set and I tried to incorporate all of that instantly, within 20 seconds of preparation into my lines. So it was a wild, adventurous day for me.
You're almost afraid to even say your first line because you want to be so ready, right? And you don't want to lie.
Right.
Right. You can't. you should never lie as an actor unless you're really good.
It's funny when you start in this business and you get your first job, and if it was good for picture and they heard it, for sound, and you got all the lines right, and the script girl says, yeah, everything's right, and I didn't knock over the furniture or anything, then you've had it made, and never mind any kind of nuance or any kind of import to the story, or whether you were any good or you sucked or whatever. It's just, gee, they got everything. We can move on. That's how you are in the beginning. But, where we're at, you worry about the subtlety. Am I missing this point? Am I remembering this backstory?
You can say at our age. That's all right.
Yeah, I remember understanding. Yeah.
It's been a journey. It's been a lot of years. I remember watching the original Star Trek. I didn't watch it much when it first came out, but when I was in college, my roommate was into it. We used to watch it on about a 9-inch black and white TV. And we were sitting around talking about it, and he said, wouldn't it be great to be on a show like that someday?
Wow.
And then light years later, you're there,
Yeah.
and you're doing this stuff, and it's kind of a thrill. It's good. It's a good life. It can be a really good life. It can be also hellishly frustrating, but
you could end up in Maui.
Yeah. I have a couple of questions. One of them is that I saw that you worked with David Carson, and he directed 2 of your episodes on Alien Nation, and David Carson directed the pilot episode for DS9. Any words on working with David Carson?
Just that I enjoyed it. I liked working with him. He seemed very insightful, and I don't know about you, Eric, but for me, I like a director to just imbue, to convey the sense that you're going to be okay, no matter what. I got your back.
Yeah.
I got your back. We hired you for a reason, so just get out there and do what you feel, and we'll talk about it. But mainly, they'll leave you alone.
Well, in our show especially, we had a lot of room for invention. And a director, I think they were pretty much sat down and said, okay, the show's moving, the characters are full, watch them work. So give them, as you say, the form. You don't want to over direct, but you have to be open to these, these experiences that we're experiencing. So that if you're sitting around the humor at the dinner table, or the special ceremony of that's kind of like a bris, but I think that the directors knew how much to be involved and when to kind of back off, And my memory of David Carson was like that, that he was very sensitive to what is the because if you go in and you're a hired gun and you're directing an episodic, you're walking into something that has already got a rhythm. And I would imagine that Star Trek is, and Star Trek, if we had a word or two to change on Alien Nation, we would just do it.
Yeah.
You could not do it on Star Trek. You
couldn't do that on Star Trek. In fact, almost directly after we did our last movie, I got my shot on Voyager, and as you say, I was really used to easy breezy, throw it out and we'll see if it works, and not on a Star Trek. They run a really tight ship, and nothing escapes your mouth that isn't sanctioned by the tower on high. They sit in, going over every word and every pause and all
every
that.
word. Yeah,
wow.
Every word. It was a real. I mean, it's an institution, So they're
very protective of it. Now, I understand that.
Sure.
Yeah.
And if you say it perfectly, what does the script supervisor say, Sirach?
DLP, Lovey.
DOP?
Dead letter perfect. You got it right.
Okay.
DLP. But you guys actually worked with another. So David Carson did the pilot for Deep Space Nine, And after I finished my work on DS9, I actually did another show for Showtime called The Hoop Life.
Nice.
And the Hoop Life pilot was directed by Kevin Hooks, another director that I see you guys worked with on Alien Nation. He was the actor on White Shadow.
Right, right.
Yes, I remember.
I like working with Kevin. What do you?
Me too. Me too. He was a fun guy.
He was a lot of fun, as I remember.
Yeah, yeah.
And we had another director that we called Half Day Harry.
Half Day Harry, we really like that.
I think we can guess why.
They got out of work for what, about 3:30?
Yeah, we're like, what?
We would start a scene.
Like, we're done? What do you mean we're done? Don't we have like
Harry
9 scenes to
Harry
do?
S. Longstreet is his name.
Yeah, Harry Longstreet.
That's Longstreet.
Half Day Harry, who,
Half Day Harry.
yeah, they retired. They live up in the Seattle area on one of the islands up there, and he's now a photographer. Still keep in touch with him once in a while.
God bless him.
So we've got just a few minutes left. Stephanie, you look like you've got one final question you want to ask, probably back about either Enterprise or Alien Nation.
No, I think, I got to go to my Enterprise. I got to do my Enterprise stuff because it's my favorite out of all of the shows. And Gary, when we met in 2018 at STLV, I don't know if you remember, it was after the Rat Pack. And I came up to you and I told you Enterprise was my favorite. And I said, but the minute I saw Saval in Broken Bow, I knew exactly who you are. And for some reason you were surprised that I realized that you were Sykes. And I said, I knew you the minute I saw you.
I know most people are surprised when I tell them, or they see my, the table with the photos and all that. They'll look at Enterprise and then look at Alien Nation and go, "You that guy too?"
No, for me it was like, oh my God, it's that guy.
I'm the guy that hurt my Achilles in Alien Nation and played Achilles in Robot Jocks.
There you go. Wow. Connection.
Whoa.
And for Eric.
Okay, for the lightning round. Let's go to Orion.
Well, actually, I do have a little bit of trivia for Eric. I found out recently, you and Connor Trenier were actually in the same episode of ER.
We were.
I'm sure you shot on different days. You probably didn't even notice. I just found this out. He played a paramedic in one of the opening sscenes.
Huh.
And then you were the patient with the worms.
Oh,
yes, I had a worm.
When the hemorrhoids went critical, right?
No, it was worse. He had a tapeworm.
I picked up a tapeworm as a traveling journalist or something.
Gosh.
He's like, thanks for bringing it up.
I wasn't
No, I watched this recently. It was just the look on your face when they told you that they had to pull it out like 2 millimeters a day and you'd have to come back. That look that you perfect. It was so perfect.
Oh God. Yeah.
Also, we
have
forgot to mention Stephanie's got an Enterprise podcast. You want to give us the name of that before we go?
Absolutely. It's the NX7062 podcast. I was very privileged. I had Eric on last year, and that is up on Spreaker if anybody wants to listen. We had so much fun talking Alien Nation and Enterprise and everything that he's doing now. Gary has a standing invitation to come on. I'm going to put you on the spot anytime you want to come on my podcast. I mean, because I know you're just so busy down in Maui.
Just surfing and snorkeling and taking in the good life.
You can also go play in the snow in Haleakala, right? Haleakala.
The snow?
Yeah, they got snow way up there at the top.
I love it. I'll do some skiing up there.
I don't know if they have.
Don't do anything to your Achilles tendon.
No. I have
but we are just about out of time. Really, Gary, thanks so much for calling in from Maui. Eric,
you're welcome.
We also really appreciate you jumping in. We've never met you before, Sirach and I, so it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for doing this on short notice. It's been great. Stephanie, thanks for making it look like everybody knows everything in the whole world about Enterprise and Alien Nation.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, thanks for not asking too specific questions.
I'll do robot checks next time.
In episode 33.
Well, mahalo, everyone, and aloha.
Mahalo.
Aloha.
And live long and prosper.
There you go.
Yes,
absolutely. Thank you, guys.
And we got it.
Oh, there it is.
Beautiful.
All right.
Thanks very much. Check us out next time on Virtual TrekCon, everybody. We'll see you on the next video, and have a great day.
Oh, all right. Hold on. Okay. And I'm back. And guys, thanks for hanging out. I know that was a bit long, but it was so worth it. I had so much fun talking to those guys, and I completely forgot that Gary was in Maui when he did that he called in. And honestly, I can do Mahalo a lot easier than I can do Live Long and Prosper. I suck at Live Long and Prosper. My fingers don't line up quite right, but I can do it sort of. But anyway, yeah, so that was like I said, that's my tribute to Gary. It was an amazing, amazing interview. I had so much fun hanging out with those guys, and I want to thank, even though they're not here, I want to thank Ryan and Sirach so much for oh, thank you, Nancy. Yeah. I want to thank Ryan and Sirach so much for inviting me to do that with them. It was such an awesome day. I had a part-time job. I was doing back then. I had a part-time job doing check cashing, and I actually called off. I'm like, I can't come in. I've got something more important to do. Because there was no way I wasn't going to do that interview. If you came late and you're interested in, you're welcome, Dave. If you're interested, that is the link to what we were watching. If you came late, if you're interested in doing a rewatch, go ahead. Obviously, that helps Virtual TrekCon's numbers. I do want to have somebody on to talk about Virtual TrekCon. It is coming up. Let me double check. I don't want to get their weekend wrong. It is in total. It is 4 days. It is the 15th, 16th, 17th, 18th, and 19th of February. And it will include this time around the Lappy Awards. So be sure you set aside some time for Virtual TrekCon in a couple of weeks. Like I said, I'm going to try to have at least one person who's involved in planning that. Have one person that's involved in planning that come on the show. Would love it to be Sirach. I've been talking to Sirach about coming back on the show. I haven't seen him since STLV, so I would love to have him come back. He's a lot of fun. So guys, thank you again for hanging out with me. That really did. I got a little verklempt watching that again and listening to the two of them talk about growing old together and everything. So of course it will be fun. There is nothing more fun than Virtual TrekCon. It is an absolute amazing freaking experience. So, and you know what? I think it runs through that Monday night. I'm gonna have to double check what time it's over on what is it, the 19th. I don't know. I'm gonna have to check and see what time it's over. Maybe I'll take that night off if you guys are all gonna be over watching Virtual TrekCon. We'll see. Maybe not. But anyway, guys, thanks again for hanging out for this tribute to Gary. That was an amazing interview. That might have been actually the last Alien Nation reunion that was had. Dave, you are just chock full of information. All right. So if they are done at 9 p.m., if they're done at 9 p.m. Eastern, then maybe I still will have a show. Maybe I'll do a VTC wrap. See if I can, maybe we can talk about the Lappy Awards then. We shall see, because as you guys know, 9 times out of 10, it takes me a little while to think of topics. So I always love that you guys are so patient with me while I figure out the topics. And as always, thank you guys for your support. I wouldn't be here if you weren't here. So I really appreciate all the support. I appreciate you hanging out. And like I said, I appreciate you being here with me tonight to honor Gary. Definitely gone too soon. And I think that about wraps it up. I don't think there's anything left to say, except I will catch you all next week. Thanks again for hanging out. And please, until I see you again, remember to live long and prosper.
This is Connor Turner. You've been listening to the NX7062 podcast with Stephanie. Enjoy